Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web-based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and of course, sharing information worldwide. As you guys know, lately I have been having all sorts of different conversations, and last week I hope you were able to join me when we had a really great conversation with Black men, and I told you it would be followed up with another conversation just as awesome with Black women, and that is today. So today I have some really awesome ladies with me, and we're just going to be talking. This is the Black Women's Roundtable. We're just going to be talking. We're going to be talking. That's what we're doing. We're going to be talking about stuff. And as Black women, of course, you know, we've had a pretty rough week. We've had a pretty rough 2020, but we've definitely had a pretty rough week. So today we're just here. We're hanging out. We're talking. And I hope that you guys are here to hang out with me and we can see what these ladies have to say. So if you are watching, let me just make sure I have the to my right, I have Ruth Amboise. Ruth Amboise is a licensed clinical social worker like myself, and she works in Palm Beach County. And then we also have with us Janae Walker. Janae is the Chief Inspiration Officer at the Success Group, Inc., Success Group, Inc. And of course, we have Sean Bernard, and Sean is the General Counsel for the Palm Beach County School District. Did I get it right?
Yes.
And I did mention, just like I forgot last time, I forgot again this time to mention that Ruth Amboise is the mother of and raising two Black boys. Actually, and one of them is a teenager. Yeah. And Sean Bernard also now raising three Black girls. Yes, she has a teenager and and an upcoming teenager.
Almost. Unless you're asking her.
And Janae and I, we're still hanging out. Yeah, we're hanging out.
It's all right too.
Yes. So basically today what I wanted to do, ladies, I wanted to just talk. Last week we had a great conversation with the guys, and we just got to talk about stuff, and we talked about family and a whole bunch of other things. And today I want to talk about more of that stuff. Should we start with how y'all feeling? Because I know we had a week. Do we want to start with how we're feeling, or should we? Yay, nay?
Yeah, I think we should.
We can. It's been a rough couple of days, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very sad and disappointing from my standpoint. You know, no matter how many times this unfortunately happens, you always kind of have a little glimmer of hope that things will turn out the way that they're supposed to. And unfortunately, I felt let down once again. So,
you know what's sad? I wasn't disappointed. I was annoyed. I was frustrated. I was sad. I was angry. I was a lot of stuff, but disappointed was not one of those. And for me, I feel that's even worse, because the fact that I wasn't disappointed told me that my expectations were such that, yeah, I expected that from y'all. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I would definitely say I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed, if I'm being honest, because I think it is in our nature as women, as nurturers, to want the right result, right? We hope for so many wonderful things for our families, for our kids. And, I'm sure most of us on this call saw ourselves in, let's just say her name, Rihanna, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was I surprised? No, I think culturally we're used to this sort of outcome, but I was disappointed. I was saddened. I was angry, like you, Judy, frustrated. so many different emotions came over me. And it is unfortunate that I can sit here and say I was not shocked.
Yes. To me, that's the worst
Fortunate.
part of it. That's the worst part of it. The fact that we are in this place where these things are not a surprise to us. To me, that's the worst part of it, because it means that this is the society we're in, and this is the society we're expecting. I don't know.
You have to lower your expectations.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
in lowering the expectations, then the blow isn't so hard.
That's the thing. I should not have to.
Yeah.
I should be able to. I shouldn't have to be there. I shouldn't have to be in this. I should be able to expect the best of my community. I should be able to expect the best of us. And
Well, I think that's kind of what they want us to do. They want us to keep lowering our expectations. And when we begin to lower our expectations of ourselves, then that lowered expectations tends to creep into other aspects of our life. And I just don't think that that's something that we have to stand for. But it's also we're also kind of at a point to what do we do? How do we make the change?
yeah,
And how do we reclaim our power back?
yeah,
And I think that if we look at it from a solution based system versus just looking at it, oh, well, it's just going to keep on happening and happening and happening. But what can we do as far as being a part of the solution? And that's where I get a little frazzled, because I understand that being a part of the solution means a lot of people will have to come together. And because we have some people who have such low, like super low expectations, they might not want to even come to the table anymore. And that's what scares me.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I've participated both professionally and personally in what is called the Race Equity Institute, and they do a lot of trainings about equity and being able to understand how we as a country got to where we are with respect to race and race relations, and why there is this inequity, right? And what's interesting, and I always kind of go back to that training when I get to this point of, well, what's the answer? What's the solution? And one of the things that they start the training out with is be comfortable with not having the answers. And so they prepare you going into that training, that if you think you're going to get the answer at the end of this training, we're here to tell you that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
So, I definitely agree that it is human nature, and we should always be about finding a solution. I don't want to set myself up thinking that, certainly at the end of today, we're going to have a solution, or that we're going to have a solution next week or next month or next year. And so that's not always the best news you want to hear when you go into a training or into a setting like this. But be okay with what small thing can you do? And that may not solve the big problem.
Yeah.
But what little thing can you do as part of your role in all of this? And so that's kind of how I always approach these things now. That I'm not gonna come up with the solution, but I can certainly look at what small thing can I do. So what small thing can Sean do? Well, I've got responsibilities, right? I've got responsibilities in my job, in my home. And so certainly as a mom, I'm constantly thinking of what small thing can I do as a mom? And so for me as a mom, it's making sure that I educate my girls, right? Making sure that I'm keeping them aware. And that's a hard thing, because quite honestly, we haven't even in our household, my husband and I have, but we haven't had this conversation about the result that just came in,
Mm-hmm.
fresh off the press with our daughters, right? Because we're plugging along. It's, it's home. We've got homework. We've got to get to school on time. We've got tests. We've got all this stuff. And so how do you as a parent stop for a moment and share this with your children, with your daughters? And so we haven't done that yet. And it will certainly be a conversation probably this weekend. Because we feel it's important. That's our job as parents, to have these hard conversations. And they're hard. They're really hard, as we all know. But as far as solutions, I keep it as a little s solution, because my solution is, what can I, Sean Bernard, do as my role in all of this? And that may not be a big thing. That may be a small thing. But, I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with, we may not be able to come up with the answer to this problem.
Well,
I teach my boys that we may not be able to save the world, but we can impact our world.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's about all we can do. Impact your little piece of your little universe.
Yeah.
And maybe it's going to have a ripple effect.
Well, not maybe. It actually does. Because when you make the change with, I often talk about one of my favorite books, which is Turning Stones by Mark Parent. And one of the things in that book that he talks about was, he shares the two different stories. One is of a group that was traveling around the country or somewhere, and then there was a nun in that group who, every time they would get somewhere, would find a little quiet moment, step away from the group, and then she would go and flip a little stone somewhere. And everyone watched her do it the whole trip, and they all thought it was weird. And eventually someone decided to ask her about it. And then she mentioned that at this moment, because she's been there and she did that place is different because she's been there. But the story that, hey friend, hi, let me say hi to a couple people. Hi, Elise and Sean, guess who's here? Hey, man.
Oh, hey.
So the other story he mentioned was of this little girl who was walking on a beach with an adult, and she kept finding little crabs that were washed ashore, and she would throw them back. And the adult eventually said, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm throwing them back so they don't die on the shore." And the adult says, "There are so many miles of beach, you'll never get all of them." And the little girl says, "Yeah, but it made a difference to this one." So it's like
that's awesome.
The miles of beach, all the other crabs may die, but this one, because we made that one action, it made a difference. And I kind of made that my life model. And I always tell people, I'm not trying to save the world. I just want to make a difference for that one person, because when you do make a difference for one person, you change the world forever in the eyes of that one person. So I mean,
that's a great point.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And what I really like about the story is that the crabs that she was saving were the crabs that were on her path. Mm-hmm. We just all stick to our path and make a commitment to impacting the lives that are on our path. Exactly. We all know that people come in our lives for a reason and a season. So if we all just make that our commitment to change the people on our path, not change the people, but impact somebody's lives that's on our path, I think that could even be a part of the solution. But we all have to, try to make that connection.
Yeah.
You have to make an effort.
We all have to play our part. We all have our own little part to play in the solution. But yeah. So we started off with one of the first things I wanted to talk about is, what has your experience been with 2020? Yes, it's so 2020. We gotta say it in quotes now. One of the things I know over the last few months with everything that's been going on, someone I know, Dr. Thompson, one of the stories she shared when everything was first starting, was how she changed her husband's running routine. Both of them are retired military, retired Navy, and I don't remember her husband's rank, but her husband retired as a senior level chief something or other, like pretty high. And one of the things that she's had to do was, now when he wears his Navy shirt, like Navy retired chief shirt. He has to carry his Navy ID. And at some point during his run, when he gets to the top or wherever, he calls her to check in so that she knows, yeah, he's good. And I think this started around sometime in the spring was when she first posted it. Have you guys made any adjustments to your lives or your children or family's lives in response to what's been going on?
I actually did that with my husband. I walk in the mornings, and he started jogging with me. But it got to a point where I was afraid to lose sight of him. And I can't keep up with his jogging. So I was happy when he decided to stop running, because I was afraid whenever I lost sight of him, something would happen. And my children, same thing. We have a basketball court in our community. We built one in our backyard. So they no longer have to go to that court. It costs a pretty penny, but for me, it's worth it because I feel like they're safer when my eyes are on them.
I haven't technically made any changes, but I do recall a time when, living in Palm Beach and a lot of new housing was going up and it was kind of exciting. And you could just walk over and you can just kind of look around and see what was happening. I kind of was thinking back to those moments when I used to just be so carefree to just, I don't know, be nosy, and and now it's kind of like even curiosity can be very scary because you see something coming up in your community. It could be a new housing complex, it could be even a park, but to just go looking at this point can be very detrimental just by the simple way of how I look. And so when this situation that I believe you're talking about happened, the one thing I said was, okay, Jay, do not go looking at any new housing developments, no matter how nice they look. Just stay yourself on your path. Do not veer to the left. Do not veer to the right. Just stay on your path.
Wow.
Well, I know for myself and my husband, we had prior to the pandemic gotten into a pretty good workout routine. I mean, for the most part, for about 2 years, at least for me, and I know for Mac a little bit longer, but pretty consistently, going to the gym every day, and just trying to, live a more healthy lifestyle. Has kind of been in place for about 2 years. So when COVID entered and the gyms all shut down, we, like I'm sure everybody else, had to regroup and figure something else out. And so one of the things that we kind of got into doing early on was running and, jogging out at the beach. And so the thought was, let's go really, really, really early in the morning, which is dark, right? It's dark early in the morning before crowds come out. And we could do so without, feeling, like we were putting ourselves at risk. Because if it's, 4 and 5 in the morning, you don't really have anybody out there. And so I just remember, which is something we would do anyway, but I think in these times, I remember having an actual conversations about, the colors of our athletic wear, making sure we're wearing bright colors that can be seen, making sure we're in areas that are lit so that if we come across someone, it's clear, hopefully they can see who we are. We were very careful to move over if passing someone, not just for health reasons, but so that no one thinks that we're trying to harm them or make any, rash assumptions. But I also can remember on those times when I couldn't go with Mac, saying, I don't think it's a good idea that you go in the early mornings. Wait till daylight. It was like, wait till daylight is here so that people can see you. Just because, quite honestly, a Black man, regardless of what he's wearing, running at early morning when it's dark, anything could happen. And I just remember, especially, with everything that's been happening in 2020, just having a fear when he's out there, even in the daylight. Because the area that we chose to run in was out at the beaches, and the homes out there are gated, and they're beautiful, and and the idea of gates is to keep people out, keep things out, right? And so you just don't know what the other person on the other side of that gate is thinking when you're running past their house. And you're running, right? So let's talk about that. So you're running, in your mind, and perception is reality. In your mind, you're jogging. In somebody else's mind, they might be thinking something else. I don't know what they might be thinking. And so there was just always, that fear of my husband being out there, exercising in an area that you don't know what the individuals on the other side of those gates are thinking as he's running by. So it's a scary state of being. It's always been there. It's not new.
No.
But it's heightened. Because it's so out there, in our faces more now than ever before, because we have cell phones, we have Facebook Live, we have all this stuff that our realities are now out there for the world to see, and even for us to see, because while you knew it was always there, and while you may have had conversations about, be careful, honey, just, take, dress a certain way. And, you have those conversations now in 2020 with all of this exposure out there of what's happening in the world. It's like these conversations, which have always been life or death conversations, are even more so life and death conversations, because you're seeing the actual deaths right there in front of you, being replayed over and over and over and over again. And so I've even heard people describe it as post-traumatic syndrome. I mean, it is, it's amazing. And I just had to get to a point where I don't watch those things. I listen to I'm not like some that don't believe in reading the paper or listening to the news. So I listen to the news. I keep up with the latest things that are going on. But as far as traumatizing myself by watching videos of people dying, I just refuse to do that. And that's just me. Because, and certainly not watching it over and over and over again. I mean, that's just traumatic. And I'm not a doctor. I have to imagine that, Dr. Judy, that can't be healthy.
That's one of those things that I always talk about. And I've been talking about it since the beginning of the pandemic. And even when everything started happening, reminding people that, because sometimes people have this thing of honoring the person, and it's like, no, you're not honoring someone who's already suffered what they suffered, who's already died, by putting yourself in a worse situation. And I have accidentally seen some stuff, but I have never chosen to, like, I think there was something that someone sent to me before and I didn't know what it was, and I started looking at it, and once I realized where I was, I turned it off, because I'm one of those, my I have that memory that like when something gets in, it doesn't get out. So I
I'm the
will
same
not
way.
allow any such thing. Like I for instance, George Floyd. I've never seen that video, but I've accidentally seen clips of. I think I was
Yes.
walking one time, and because the
Yes.
news feels that it's normal to just show you somebody being murdered. So that's how I've seen clips of it. But
Yeah.
I will never sit there and watch 8 minutes of somebody being murdered. That is
No
just
way.
never
No
going to
way.
happen.
Never.
Let me say hi to a couple people. Melinda, is it Pollard? First name, last name. She said, what she had a question that I want to talk about. Hi, friend, and I don't know. Hey, Regine. Regine's here. So hi, Regine. As you were talking, Sean, one of the things that Melinda mentioned was that she hasn't really made any changes, but one of the things that makes her nervous is that her husband has this habit of, I guess, driving in places and he just drives super slow. And she says how that makes her nervous. And when I read that, I remembered I've shared this story before of being pulled. I've never been pulled over for being Black. I will always say that I've never been pulled over for being Black. However, I do get pulled over for driving a silver Hyundai all the time. So it was one of those days, one of those pull over everybody in a silver Hyundai days. And I just, yes, they exist. They happen a few times a year. So if I'm not in a hurry, I'm that person where instead of driving it on 95 and being annoyed, I will drive on A1A and just enjoy the water. I'm not dealing with lights. I'm just a leisurely drive to wherever I'm going. So right middle of the day, maybe 1-2 o'clock in the day, I'm driving the speed limit, not driving super slow, but I was driving the speed limit. I got pulled over for driving the speed limit because that looks suspicious. Yes. That was the day I was like, okay, what was I supposed to do? Because I've been pulled over for driving too slow in the same stretch of road. I've been pulled over for driving too fast, and I've been pulled over for. So it's one of those things. And one of the things that first name, last name says is, how do we get back? Like she says that how these setbacks are messing with her confidence, and she doesn't know how to get back to being her normal self and doing the stuff. Like, how do we get back to life? You guys have any thoughts?
I hate to even say this. I don't know. I hate to even say this. Oh my goodness. I don't know that it's safe to let your guard down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just speaking for Sean Bernard.
Yeah.
I am not confident that it is safe. I mean, I just saw something, a dear friend, an alum, Clark Atlanta University just got shot by a police officer. And, somebody, I went to school with, and I didn't know him personally. But just, we were connected by the friends that we had in common, clearly. And I've seen so many posts about it. And, every time, if I even thought for a second that I could go back to normal and whatever normal is, but let my guard down even for a second, there's just too many reminders of you have to stay on your toes and P's and Q's, as they call it. You have to, unfortunately, it's almost like, we're military almost here, culturally, where you have to be ready for this for that moment, because we do not know if or when that moment may happen. Mm-hmm. And we have to prepare our husbands, our wives, our children for that moment, and prayerfully that moment never comes. Right. But to not be ready, to not be on guard, I personally just not see for me and my family being or getting there anytime soon. because these stories just keep coming in. And unless they stop coming in and the world changes, I mean, I can't predict if that ever occurs or will occur. But I just don't know. And I would never tell anybody I care about, to not be prepared and to not prepare your families.
Yeah, we don't really have an opportunity to let ourselves get caught slipping. Whatever we need to have on our car, whenever we need to have our ID, we have to make sure that we have everything that we need. But then at the same point, when you look at some of the videos of the people who may have lost their life for simply just grabbing for their ID after
They
being
had everything.
told, right? Yeah,
They were doing everything right.
They're doing everything right, and so at the same point, it's like, so even if I'm prepared, if I meet that wrong person, then what? And that's where I kind of get a little uneasy, because I can only control my actions, right? And if someone has a fear of me based on how I look, then being prepared doesn't really mean
It won't get you there
anywhere. And so I think that's where the uncertainty comes from, because, hey, listen, I'm not one of those people out there that's breaking any laws that, I might look suspicious on the weekend when I have my sweatpants on and, I don't have the dress on, because I do get treated differently when I'm in my business clothes versus when I'm in my regular clothes. So when I'm in my regular clothes, I'm a little bit more heightened because I notice the difference of how I get treated. But how do I prepare myself to come up against someone who has a fear of me so much so that they're willing to take my life for it? I don't know, Judith. We will have to turn that one over to you, because I don't have the answer.
I don't have the answer.
Judy, what was the question? Repeat the question for me.
Her question was, how do we get back to being comfortable, being normal again? How do we get back to a place where she's comfortable?
Normal is, what's the word I'm looking for? Your normal isn't somebody else's normal, right?
Yeah,
sure.
But again, we can't live in a constant state of fight or flight, because if you do that, then you're going to be ending up Baker acted and on some meds, and that's not the route we want to take, right? So, and if you look at history, historically, there's always an ebb and a flow. There's always ups and downs. Things are always happening. Change is constant. That's one thing you can rely on. Change is constant. So I would say for that person, I like the examples, you have to be careful what you're wearing, where you're going, have the proper ID. But again, like Jay said, you can't control other people's actions. So at the end of the day, you have to decide what works for you. Don't think about what other people are expecting of you, but be true to yourself. And then you decide what the new normal is, because change is constant. So you're constantly going to have to be making changes. Much like, let me give you a real life example. So I worked at a dialysis facility. A lot of people, once they get that diagnosis that, hey, your kidneys are not functioning, you've got to make some changes. It's hard. It's hard saying, oh man, you mean I can't get up and eat the rice and beans that I've been eating for 50 some odd years? I mean, I was weaned off of milk and onto rice and beans. So now I can't eat that? Really? Yeah, if you eat it, you're gonna die faster. So yeah, you gotta give it up. You mean I can't chug down a Pepsi every day? No, you can't. Kidneys can't filter it anymore. Not working. Unless you're going to do dialysis every day of the week for like 8 hours. So you got to make some choices. So I think we're in a state of crisis right now, but crisis never ends. Crisis happens daily. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I have a toothache. That's a crisis.
Yes.
So you're going to have to decide how you're going to deal with all the mini crises that keep coming as a part of life. So it's not an easy fix. It's not a constant. You're going to just have to adjust.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody else's shortcomings dictate how you live your life.
Yep.
You know, can I just say something? Because Miss Ruth just hit on something that really kind of stuck to me because of a recent experience. And Judy, you might know about this, but I recently got a DISC assessment done. And the DISC assessment tells you how you act when you're not in stress and when you are in distress. And so naturally, I was so alarmed how this personality test that I only spent an hour on was able to tell me, you know, how I'm perceived when I am in a state of stress. And I was so alarmed because I was a little taken back and I'm like, wow, this is how people see me when I'm stressed out. But then Ruth just said, we are in a constant state of crisis. So people are always encountering me now in a state of crisis. And that, I think, in the professional world, people don't understand because what's happening on the outside, internally, subconsciously, those things are still replaying itself. And it kind of worries me that I'm always presenting myself in a state of crisis. And I feel for other people because, you know, I've been able to develop some coping mechanisms. Like Ms. Ruth was saying, you got to figure out how to adjust. But even in myself of knowing people like Dr. Judy and having friends that could help me cope, I still am not coping very well with it. So how are my other brothers and sisters coping with this, with other added stressors that I might not have? And so once again, it makes me really sad that our new normal is in a state of crisis.
That's where community comes in. You say you have some coping mechanisms. Keep building.
Yeah.
Keep building. Because, I mean, I just started a new coping mechanism. I walk every morning. And if I don't walk, I don't feel right. So,
That's right.
I walk. And it's a great way to cope. And then I read a lot. For me, that's my downtime. My kids, well, my 11-year-old is always joking with me, Mom, man, you know, we're not like you. We don't like reading, because I'm always encouraging him to read. Like, he said, no, that's not relaxing for me, Mom. I'm good. I'll pass. But give me a book any time of day and I'm good. So you got to figure it out. You got to figure out, because you can't, the crises are going to come, they're going to go. But you can't let it affect you to the point where you end up in St. Mary's psych ward. Because believe me, it ain't no better there.
I definitely don't want to end up there, but I think it really, when we talk about meeting those crabs on the beach, right? When we see our other people out there, and we see them acting a certain way, maybe they're acting in distress. It really just makes me take a moment to think of how important it is for me to throw back the crabs on my path. Because if I love that book, I'm gonna have to get it. But you know, it really makes me want to do more, knowing, you know, that there are people out there that maybe need some coping mechanisms, and maybe for myself, improving on my coping mechanisms. Now I have more experiences the same way you just did with me, Miss Ruth. I thank you so much. You said walking is your thing and you don't feel right if you don't walk, right? Well, that is you throwing me back in the water just based off of your experience. So I thank you for that. And maybe I can take your story and maybe one of these days I can get up and walk, but don't hold me to it. I'm gonna find another compliment. But maybe I can share my experiences, and maybe that's what it's about, is through helping ourselves, we help others. I was just sharing with a friend that the lessons and things that we learn, we tend to think that they are for us. They might be for us, but they're not only for us, right? And so it's just a really good point about the crack story. I'm sorry, Judy.
Hey, I love that book. That was required reading when I was in college, which is going on 20 years ago now. And
Wow.
it's still one of my favorite books. And that's my life's philosophy came from a book that we didn't even feel like reading. Let me just say hi to a few people who are here. Tanya's here, first name, last name. Hey, Dennis. Hi, Tanya. I already said hi to Elise. Michelle is here. Michelle. Hi, Michelle. I think I've seen everybody else. That's other people are here, but they're here quietly. They're not saying anything. But a couple of things that they brought up, which I wanted to come to it. We were talking about the whole building community, buildings, having that support system. And one of the things that has always been a thing for me has been this whole the myth of the strong Black woman. And Elise asked the question, he said, how, what are some ways that the Black man has not been there for us, the Black women?
Oh my goodness, Jay, you should have seen his expression like.
Hey, Tanya. But I recently posted a video about this whole why we need to get rid of this myth. And one of the things for me is that they use the strong Black woman as an excuse for society and for everyone else around us to give themselves the freedom of not being here for us, because we're strong, we're the strong Black woman, we got it, we can do this. So people they don't have to take care of us. Society doesn't have to step up for us. Throughout history, whether it was the women's lib movement or whether it was the civil rights movement, the Black woman was always in there, being a pillar, being pretty much the backbone of the movement and putting in all the legwork. And then when it was time for good, it's like, hey, white lady gets credit, Black man gets credit. Hey, Black woman, we'll come back to you. We're gonna get you. So how do we move from there, or how is this something we can move from? Yeah,
that's a tough one. You've said a whole lot. You've said a mouthful there. Wow. This one is always hard because there are times when I wear my strong Black woman cape with pride. I'm constantly, as all the myths that are out there about how we are the backbone of the movement. I just the other day, and I'm a big history buff. I majored in history in undergrad, and I'm just throwing this out as an example. My daughter is taking U.S. history, and she was showing me the syllabus, and I was so excited. And particularly Black history, I'm very passionate about Black history. And so as she was showing me the syllabus, I was like, oh my goodness, the fun we're going to have. We're going to learn about Angela Davis. She says, I don't see that on the syllabus. I said, but we're going to learn about so, I think it's so important to instill, particularly in Black girls, images and history about strong Black women and our mark on the world. And so there's a lot of pride that I have there, but I get how over time and over history, how that has been used, like you said, Dr. Judy, as a way to overlook, to minimize that, like all women, we feel, we love, we cry, we hurt. And it's okay to cry, right? So I try to instill that in my girls too. You don't always have to be this strong figure that doesn't hurt, that doesn't love, that doesn't feel, that isn't impacted by the world. You do deserve to be spoken up for by not just Black men. You do deserve, and I know the feminist movement is not for this, but chivalry is not dead in my book. And so we deserve all those things that traditionally women have been given, and we have been sidestepped over history.
Michelle,
I don't know that answers your question, but I don't know. This is one of those, I don't have a solution for it. I know that we deserve these things, but I don't have a solution for it.
Michelle says that we need to speak up for ourselves and not wait for someone else to do it. And I agree with her. But what I would add to it is that we need to ensure that we're not giving that pass. Everyone wants the pass. Everyone wants to say, she's a strong Black woman. That's the strong Black woman. They got this. They don't need that. But for us as women to stand up and say, no, hey, I was here for your fight, and we're in this fight together. We're not gonna just we're not gonna deal with your issue and wait for mine to wait till later. So I think a part of it is that we as women have to make sure that we're taking that step and not allowing people to take that pass, because married women and mothers do this a lot.
That is true.
Y'all can't do it right. I'm going to do it myself. And I often have to remind people that your way is not the only right way to do it. And that sometimes it seems to me that we enable that allowance of people taking us for granted, because we just go and we do it ourselves. We take care of everything. We make sure we do, y'all aren't doing it my way, so I'm going to do it myself. But I think we need to start speaking up and making sure that we're allowing people to, and demanding that the world take care of us, because the world has been getting a really nice pass.
It has.
I think sometimes when we talk about the strong Black woman, I think it's a good thing to have the cape on in certain instances, but I guess I'm more concerned about how the woman got her cape. Did she get her cape because she was hurt so much that she has to wear the cape? Did she get the cape because she was abused and her coping mechanisms went on hyperdrive? You understand? Was it the fact that she got her cape because she, she saw some areas in her life that she really wanted to improve upon, and so she went through, self-development courses? For me, I feel like my cape comes from always being turned away from the Black man, hence why I am single, right? So, from my father to, pastors to people who held very strong, we're supposed to have very strong leadership roles in my life. When I saw that they abandoned those responsibilities, and I knew that if I wanted to get along in the world, if they weren't going to do it, then guess who had to do it for myself? It was me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's how I got my cape. Not saying that it was the best way or the right color of the cape to have, but it is my cape. And because as a result of me having my cape, a lot of people forget to check in on me, right? Yes. Because I forget to tell people that I am human or allow them to see that human side because I'm so used to having that cape on. I think I even forget myself. I had a girlfriend over last night and she was reminding me of something that I had been through. And I was like, yeah, that was really hurtful. And just for that moment, I sat there and I was like, wow, how did I make it through that? You know? And Judy's one of those people, one of those friends that'll always call and check in and be like, why haven't I heard from you? It's a result of how I got my cape. And so I'm thankful that I have friends that will always remind me, but then there are some times because their lives get busy too, that they don't always think to check in. And I thank you, Judy, for always being one of those people that does. But oftentimes we end up going through things by ourselves as our own detriment. Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful.
So you recognize that. So Jay, you have to make a concerted effort to reach out to.
Yes. That's something that, I almost lost a girlfriend a couple of years ago because I kind of withdraw and, my desk assessment just told me I'm not withdrawing because I'm antisocial. I go into assessment mode, right? Mm-hmm. But when I'm in that assessment mode, it's okay for me to pick up the phone and just, even if they don't give advice, to just let somebody know because relationships are a two-way street. And a lot of times those same friends are the ones that will call and they'll lean on my shoulder. But when I don't lean on theirs, and I know that there's a couple of people that don't lean on my shoulder, and I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm here. Why didn't you call me? I take it as an offense. And so I have to be mindful, Ms. Ruth, like you were saying, and it has to be a concerted effort until it becomes a habit. Right. Exactly. So true. One of the things that I decided I was going to do is I was going to call my friend at least 2 times, right? At least 2 different friends every week. Goes in my calendar, goes on my planner. Like that's my concerted effort because I don't have the habit. Mm-hmm. So
I like it because I'm always preaching schedule it because we do the things that are on our calendar.
Yes.
Hi, my sister's here. Anik is here. Hi, Anik. Last week I didn't mention that Anik did this wonderful makeup, and she did it again. So thank you. But
so what I take away from that is that I'm married to a wonderful, wonderful guy, and Judy attests to that. And when I tell people I don't cook, they look at me and say, huh? Yeah, I don't. If it's not broken, why fix it? My husband loves to cook. So he's really good. And he's into going online and looking up recipes and trying new things. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. But most recently, a friend of mine came to my house and she came to have my husband work on some stuff. And she went to the pantry and got herself something to eat. And then she decided that she needed me to get her a drink. I'm like, in the old days, I would have done that because, you're the strong Black woman and you're the consummate entertainer and you take care of your house guests. I told you that she could feel free. She knew where the fridge was. Because I was busy working.
She never treats me like a guest. She does not. She does not treat me like a guest.
So in the old days, I would have gotten up and gotten her a drink, but no, not anymore. So I think that we as Black women, yes, we're strong. We need to be, right? But we need to give ourselves a pass too. Sometimes it's okay to say, hey, I'm good. You got 2 hands, 2 feet. You're an able-bodied citizen. Have at it.
One was a guest in their home. I'm just gonna point that out. I was a guest. I think she keeps, and she always says, "You let yourself in." Like that makes me less of a guest.
A guest that has the code to the alarm, to the garage, and almost has a key. Yeah, you can find the fridge.
One of the things that a couple of things Rira says, we also have to remember that there is much strength and flexibility, and it's not always easy. It's not always easy, and it's all right to express that. My sister also says that she's not quite understanding the problem with being a strong Black woman or Black girls. And she mentioned the deodorant commercial where it talks about strong enough for a woman. But see, to me, I don't see that there's so much of a problem with being a strong Black woman. For me, it's what society is making the strong Black woman out to be. The fact that we're using this moniker of the strong Black woman as a pass to not take care of the Black woman, because hey, you're a strong Black woman, you got this, you don't need us to take care of you. That I love the idea. Like, I remember sometimes people refer to me as the machine, as the this, as the that, and people talk about my strength, and I like that. I like my strength, but the idea that you would take my strength to mean that you don't have to, that society doesn't have to be there for me, that society doesn't have to give me the same stuff that everyone else's get, that society doesn't, that society's making me, it's setting me aside because, yeah, she's a strong Black woman, she got this. That's my issue.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the example that comes to mind is sometimes, again, you can look at the Breonna situation, but and you see, some of these incidents with police officers and how aggressive they can be towards Black women versus the aggressiveness that I should say Black and brown women versus that same level of aggressiveness towards non-Black or brown women. And I mean, you see this reflected in some of the things that we're seeing, just giving that as an example. And so to your point, Judy, it's the way society perceives that strength that causes a sort of reaction that you are not, that you, like I said earlier, that you are not woman. I hate to, put those stereotypes out there, because I don't, particularly live up to all of those stereotypes that they have for women. But just to use that as an example that somehow, because I am Black or I am brown, that, just the level of brutality sometimes, you get a pass there, that there's this super strength that we have, that we're different somehow. And so that part of it is a little bit troubling. So yes, it's a beautiful thing. I wear my cape, like I said, proudly, and my strength proudly. And I've actually, as I've gotten older, I know when to pull out my cape and when to put it away. I'm pretty confident about when to do that. I'm very comfortable in my skin, be it with my husband. I know when to tuck that cape in, and pull it out. And I enjoy, like you, Ruth. I mean, I'm not big on, I cook, but I will admit that my husband is a better cook. So I'll go on record. I don't know if he's still on, but I will admit that he's a better cook. But there's certain things that he cooks better than me, and then there's certain things that I cook better than him. Because I would say that he cannot.
Girl, like they say, I don't even boil water.
Said that he cannot, and probably not many, can fry chicken the way I can. So that he would admit to that I am the queen. I am the queen on this side of the Mason-Dixon line of frying chicken. Okay. But I digress. But I'm you live, you grow, you mature as a woman, you come into your own skin, and hopefully as we are growing other women, right, as we are teaching other growing women, maturing women, that we help others know when to pull out their cape, and also help them to understand that you don't have to give society that pass, because it's not right. It's not. We are women, and regardless of how strong we may appear on the outside, we are still, at the end of the day, women. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of recognizing that it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing.
Sean, and my sister says, what? Matt cooks better than Sean?
He is. Some things he definitely. I mean, I will say I have not mastered the art of preparing rice. And he is amazing. I mean, you could eat his rice without anything. It's so amazing. So he's got certain things in the kitchen better down than I do, but that's okay. That's okay. I will take my wins where I can.
Yeah. We all have our strengths, right, Sean?
That's right. That's right.
Give Mac his props. Yeah. All right, Mac can sing.
I was hoping that he wasn't still on, because I don't like to give him too much credit while he's listening. That might go to his head.
He was listening earlier. I know he was. Let me say hi to a couple. People. Hi, Sabine. Sabine just got here. Let's see. First name, last name said mentioned earlier that as we were talking about the strong Black woman, that because the opposite of that strong Black woman is white fragility, which is often treated with a level of gentleness, a level of Matt just says, tell her I'm listening. So now he knows that you said nice things about him.
That's right.
Regine says we deserve self-care, and friend was saying how self-care is one of her struggles, which self-care is one of her Anik is bravo, commissioner. So that's what my sister says. But and two friends, hi Imani. She's another one that does not treat me like a full guest. She says if you can get your snacks, you can get your drink. But they kind of, at least she kind of treats me, she kind of gives me the guest treatment a little bit, not fully, but a lot more than I get at somebody's house. But friend was saying how
Miss Ruth is unfazed, by the way.
Well, friend was saying how self-care is her struggle, and again, us having been conditioned the strong Black woman, I know a lot of times we neglect or fail to prioritize self-care, which is based on us regular, like from the beginning of time until 2019, it was really important. And now in 2020 is critical. So what are we doing? How do we get each other putting in that time? Because I always say you're of no use to anyone else when you are not good yourself. But we're so busy taking care of and being, hi Nancy. We're so busy taking care of everyone else and being the strong Black woman and meeting all those expectations that society puts on us, that sometimes we fail or we neglect to take care of us. Like what What are you guys doing? What advice do you guys have? Like anything?
Well, my cousins tend to think that I am the queen of self-care, only because I used to get massages all the time. But they didn't know the work that went into being able to afford those massages either, you know. But I will just speak up on that because self-care in 2020 is a different level of self-care from
Yes.
before. Oh my God. So what I used to do before, I learned how to do meditation, right? I learned how to take a breath. I'm just being honest. Like, of course I breathe, right? But I don't, when I get super stressed, I don't breathe, right? And so just the art of actually just taking a deep breath is actually a form of self-care for me. I actually got written up on a job one time about not having a good work-life balance. I got written up because I didn't, yeah. I don't know anybody in their life that's actually been written up for that, but I did. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I said, okay, now that you tell me I don't have a way, I don't have an outlet, he's like, my boss was like, why don't you find a hobby? Why don't you find something that you like to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? I like to work. But see, that was me not taking care of myself. Once I was able to find a hobby, I was able to not only find something else to kind of spend my time on, but I also found another community of people that also picked up the same hobby. And so it could have just been a simple, you know, conversation with that person about that hobby, or a simple going to the store to look at different things that pertain to the hobby. So now I kind of sprinkle all these different things throughout my day. But 2020 is on a whole different level. Let me just tell you, okay? So self-care now is eating right. Self-care now is I have to, you know, find some type of physical activity right before I go to bed just so I can kind of turn my thoughts off so I can sleep appropriately. I had a group of girls. I do a goals group, and one of them, one of the girls spoke up and she says, "You need to be drinking water every time you get out the shower and go to the bathroom." That was self care for me because I didn't know how to get my water in. You know, so now it's Ruth is, oh, look at you guys. Oh, I got the tea. I got the tea, right?
I have water too. I just don't know where it is.
But now it's kind of like self-care is almost survival.
Mhm.
It's almost at a point of survival for me. And so I'm always interested. And one of the things I wanted to share, I know Sean was talking about, you know, she has a great idea of when to wear her cape and when to take it off. I think what happens is, and I know for me, and I'm a trainer, so it could be the trainer in me. I have a hard time with people telling me exactly what I need to do, but not giving me the how. And I think that's another way that we can throw our crabs back into the ocean, is to make sure that we give people how. Because as soon as she said, "Oh, I know how to take my cape off," I'm like, "How, girl? Tell me." You know what I mean? Like, you know, give me some action steps. Give me some realistic things that I can do, because my brain is able to correlate. Okay, as soon as I get out the shower, drink water. You know what I mean? Like, that's an actionable step versus someone saying, "Well, make sure you're drinking all of the water that you need." We hear that all the time, but help me understand how to fit it into my day or into my life for that matter.
Well, I can tell you, girl, for me, it's being aware. So I am one of those people, and it's, you know, it's something that I've been doing probably since I was a kid. I've always been one of those people that thinks before I act, right? And so and that is a habit that you have to build. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very aware. And so I, you know, because of that habit that I have formed over the years of making myself aware of what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do before I do it, whatever that thing is. When I tell you I'm very aware of my cape, I am, before I step onto the floor in the morning, I am already thinking and plotting out to the best of my ability, right? Because things are thrown at you that you can't control. But I'm already plotting out, my day and how I'm going to tackle something. And so because I am thinking about those things from the time I wake up in the morning and probably before I go to bed. So I'm thinking, I'm plotting, I'm planning, I'm thinking ahead. What is tomorrow going to look like? God willing, he wakes me up in the morning. What am I going to do? How is that day going to run? So I am constantly thinking of and planning and being aware of what my actions, planning that out in advance. And this is just me. Not everybody lives this way. But so when I get in those moments, I've already made the mental note and decision of when I'm going to pull my cape out and when I'm going to tuck it back in. And so that's how I plan out my day, whether it's interacting in my professional life or in my personal life. You know, if I get a note from the teacher, and whether it's a good note or a bad note, I'm already planning. How are we going to address this when I run into little McCall or little McKenna? I'm already deciding, okay, am I wearing the cape or am I going to punt this to dad? I'm already plotting out when is the cape going on or when am I going to fall back, as they say, and say, okay, dad, you're good cop or you're bad cop. So I am very conscious of whether, again, it's in my professional or my personal life, when I'm going to put on my cape and when I'm going to tuck that little girl in and fall back. So that's just me. I'm a planner. I've got to have a sense or an idea of what my day is going to be like. Now, and if it's if a curveball gets thrown in there, because by nature, I've trained myself to stop, listen, think about how I'm going to respond. And I think a lot of people get caught up in, and I noticed this especially in my family members, so it really was a talent that I had to teach myself, that you want to get to the answer, get to your response. You're not even listening to what the person is saying. You're so caught up on your response that you're not listening. And so I had to retrain myself that it's okay, even if there's dead air. Dead air is not a bad thing. If it allows me the opportunity and time to think about how I'm going to respond or how I'm going to act, that's my comfort level. So that's how I enter the world every day, and that's how I approach everything that I do in my life.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I think that's your superhero. How each superhero, they have like their thing. You know what I mean? I think that's your superhero power. And it's like, it would be so nice, like, to actually tap into your superhero power. So thank you for sharing it with me, because now I can take what you said that you do and try to apply that to my life. So thank you for pouring into me right now. But I might have to reach back out to you and be like, girl, I can't find my cape. I can't find
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. Because people will tell me all the time. I'm telling you, people will tell me, they'll be like, but Sean was so cool. She didn't pop off. The chances of seeing me pop off is, if I pop off, things are really bad. Yeah. Because I am so busy thinking, and I'm just very calculated in that way. And I know that about myself. I'm very in tune with myself. And that just takes a lot of time and practice and effort. And it's a thing that I'm still building on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you guys, as we're talking about this, I know, Sean, you're actually both of you guys, Sean and Jay, you're both AKAs. Like,
hi, Summer. You waited to the end to share that little tidbit of information. Okay, Judy.
So what role does sisterhood play in this? The comment went up before, and someone, I don't know, I can find who said it earlier, that we have to make sure I lost the comment, but someone was saying how we have to make sure that we're not, as we're being the strong Black woman, we shouldn't weaponize it. We need to be making sure that we're using it to empower one another and support each other. What? Oh, and I'll tell you, I think that was the first time I saw this at Bobby and Whitney's wedding. Yes, we know Bobby and Whitney.
Yes, we do.
At Bobby and Whitney's wedding, one of the things that I absolutely loved was that actually I loved it, but it scared me first. We're sitting there and they start the song and they all start getting up and walking in slow motion, slowly walking to. I was like, what is going on? It almost looked like, should I run? But it turned out.
Wait, you were at Bobby and Whitney's wedding? First off, you were at Bobby and Whitney's wedding?
Yes, we were. Just not the Bobby and Whitney, you know.
Oh.
Yes, power of love, the power.
Yes.
So we're at the wedding and they start this song, the AKA song, and they all start getting up slowly and walking up. And I'm like, okay, what is happening there? It almost looked like where they were going into the little ritual circle, but everyone got up and everyone, all the AKAs, which apparently there's a lot of them in Palm Beach County, they are standing around, they encircled her and they're singing this little song of support. And to me, that was really good. But how do we bring that sisterhood, that level of support? Because whenever AKAs and Deltas in Palm Beach County, I know, and all the sororities, whenever they see each other, they're always greeting and all that stuff. But how do we bring that sorority into the community, and not necessarily in the Greek community, but in our community, generally in our community?
I think what we're doing now is good. I had absolutely no clue that I had a soror on this line, right? But
I was going to say that just kicked this whole thing up a notch.
I know, we need to stay on here a whole extra hour now, right? But I felt like a sense of sisterhood when I first got on the phone and on the line. I said, hey, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my God, I love this about your background. I love this. I'm trying to find a connection with my sisters. I didn't need to know that anybody is an AKA or a Delta. That to me does not matter. What I will say is that I learned a lot about sisterhood through AKA, right? That I'm able to take in scenarios like this where I might be the only Greek in the room. So it could just be a simple way of connecting with people. And sometimes it just starts with a simple hello. I mean, sometimes we go outside and people walk past me, and I'm talking about us. We walk past each other, no eye contact, no even acknowledgement that person was right there. That is so sad to me because that's not how we grew up. Maybe it's an up north thing. I'm not sure. I'm from Pittsburgh, but you saw another sister or a Black person, you automatically spoke, right? Mm-hmm. That's the first and foremost. Acknowledge that somebody is there with you, right? Yeah. From then on, once you see a friendly face, once you see a friendly smile, you're a little bit more open to connecting with that person because you can kind of feel their vibe. The first time I said hello to Sean, she just smiled and I was like, oh, I'm good. Same thing with Miss Ruth. I'm like, oh, I'm good. I love her lipstick. I'm like, oh, I want to connect with these women. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. And also another thing that we have to think about too, when it comes to connecting, is we have to remember that we are there to pour into other people, right? It's not about me always getting something out of the other person. Mm-hmm. It's who can I introduce it? It's the same when you go to a networking meeting. Who can you introduce this person to? Who can you how can you help this person in their business? Well, we need to be doing the same thing in our lives. Hey, what's your story? Get that person to open up, find out what their struggles are. Oh, you know what? You need to meet this person or you need to be in this group. We should always be looking to level up one another and not expecting anything back from it. And we need to open ourselves and open our hearts to each other. And I think that that's what we're missing.
I own 2 businesses that I do nothing with. But one of them is called Connect and Grow. So Connect, the letter N, and grow. And the premise behind that was during the Haitian earthquake, I was overseeing a grant for DCF, and a lot of the kids that were being displaced from Haiti were going into families that were non-Haitian. So I wanted to get a group of Haitian professionals together so that we can mentor the children. So the other business is called People Connect Inc. And Mac helps me do the nonprofit thing for that. So and you're right, we have to connect. But again, I'm going back to what I said before. It takes an effort, right? And I know for me, it's hard. I rarely call people. I'll shoot you a happy birthday text before I call you. You know why? Because if I call you, you're going to keep me on the phone for longer than 30 minutes. Whereas if I text you, you're going to say, thank you. And for me, I have accomplished what I wanted to. I'll let you know I remembered your birthday and I was thinking about you and I'm sending you happy thoughts. Because my life is so super busy. Judy just spent a week at my shelter doing a training, and I never stopped moving. Somebody was always knocking on my door. Like today, if you see me glancing up, that's somebody in my window waving that they need me, even though there's a sign that says I'm in a meeting, right? So it's constant. And then I'm raising two boys. One's 14, one's 11. The 14-year-old looks like a man, talks like a man, but is a kid. And he thinks he's a man. The 11-year-old says, Mom, I'm preteen now. So what do I do with that? So it's hard. And then I work in a shelter where they aren't very welcome. I work with girls that have been detained at the border. So again, a group of unwelcome teens where I have to make sure that they're cared for. So with all that, it's hard for me to say, I'm going to then commit to meeting with another group. Even doing this with Judith today, I was like, man, Judy, no, man, I didn't want to, but she's persistent. So I'm here. But at the same time, I'm over here. I'm still working over here while we're talking because it's important. And I'm going to take my own advice. It's going to take a concerted effort. So I'm going to be texting Mac to come get some fried chicken.
And just so you know, she means she's texting Mac so she can come get fried chicken. Just to make sure we're clear.
Yeah. Because I don't know Sean's number, but I know Mackinson's. So I'm going to text Mac so I can find out when Sean is making the fried chicken. And I'm going to swing by because I at least know where the house is.
Let's do even better.
If I don't know Sean's number.
Let's do even better. Can we make a commitment to connect with each other over fried chicken? Because I think
yes.
Housewarming. Let me just say a couple things. Your husband was up in here in this chat talking about go AKA set it off.
Okay.
Set it off.
He's been trained well.
My sister's an AKA and she's watching.
But the other thing that someone else was saying was actually my sister was saying how when just the simple fact, and she was loving when you were talking, she was really loving it, and she's saying just saying hi. Oh, and she just commented, saying hi also isn't a head nod. Open your mouth.
Ooh, that is true. That is true.
I'm one of
with the with the mask situation. Yeah, I have to say it is a head nod now.
I'm a smiler. Normally, I don't know. I'm a smiler, so I'm having a particularly rough time because I'm not the talking. Like I don't. Sometimes if I can see your name, like if I'm walking into a store and or if you just happen to come from work and you're still wearing your uniform that says, I will be like, hey, Sean, how are you? And then
I do that, and my kids laugh at me like, "Mom, you talk to everybody." I'm just acknowledging them. They
yeah,
have a
but
Mom, do you know them? No, their name tag is right there.
Tag.
but like now, but generally I'm a smiler. I will walk in and I see you and I will smile even if I don't feel like talking. But now I just tell people I'm smiling in here.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I was gonna say sometimes when I'm with my mom and we're like out and about in public, and I'll just like walk into a place, and when I say hi to you, I'm giving eye contact,
Mhm.
right? And that person, they could be slumped over, like down in their seat, but as soon as you say hi and you give them eye contact and you acknowledge, their whole demeanor changes. And my mom looks at me and she's like, "Do you know that person?
I'm like,
You just
no.
talk to anybody." I just said hi, but it can change a whole person's day. We don't know what people are going through,
Exactly.
and imagine how some people might feel, kind of unseen or invisible. That simple hi could just remind them that they're a part of a bigger world. So, maybe we need a movement. We need a movement, a high movement,
Well, first name, last name is saying the Black hello happens around the world between Black Americans, Brits, Africans, etc. You come across in any country, Asian, European, wherever. So she's saying that we've heard that there is a Black acknowledgement or a Black way of saying, and yes, generally, like my sister said, it's not a head nod, but generally the head nod is the approved or known Black communication method. But we do need to be making sure, especially I know over the past, like the last few days, after that announcement, I took the time and I went out and I kind of went for a walk and just kind of got myself together. And then when I came back, I had some other errands that I was running. I normally do make an effort to acknowledge people, but I noticed myself being a little bit more attentive to sharing a smile with a Black woman, just acknowledging that, hey, you're here, I'm here, I see you. I don't know. It just felt like at that moment, we just needed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ladies. I asked for an hour. You guys have given me a whole 90 minutes. And it's like we could go on another 2, but I know we gotta get back to work. So generally I ask what you guys are doing for self-care, but you guys seem to share. We've kind of gone over that. We shared about what you are doing. Are there any self-care tips that you would share with people that are watching now or people who will be watching later? Because right now, and especially after the week after the 2020 we've had as Black women, I think we definitely could use. Are there any self-care tips that you use that you find particularly? Oh,
I have 2.
okay, go ahead.
Stop to smell the roses.
Nice.
And don't beat yourself up for taking time to take care of yourselves. Because especially moms, we can be extremely judgmental of ourselves, right? When we take a moment to just take care of ourselves. And so I would say, don't judge yourself, don't beat yourself up because you decided to take a few minutes for yourself.
Let me just, before we move to the next person, I'm just gonna say hi to my number one, my favorite principal is in the house. Hi, Principal Digist. Okay, now go ahead. I was just saying hi.
Well, like I said earlier, self-care is not just a thing that you can just say you're going to think about implementing in your life. It's now a point of, or a part of survival mode for us. And so it's not when, it's a now, and it's just, you need to figure out how. So there's lots of self-care things that you can do out there that are absolutely free. Breathing air, in most cases, pre-COVID, with the mask on, now COVID, but you get the drift. Stopping to take a deep breath and smell the roses, like Sean was saying, that is probably one of the best forms of self-care that you can do, and it absolutely costs you nothing, and you can do it any place, at any time, anywhere that you are. So that's the first tip that I have. The second tip that I have is you've got to have a time, whether it's once a week, once a night, however you do it, but you have got to learn how to clear the clutter in your brain. It is stopping us from making good decisions. It's stopping us from being our best version of ourselves. We cannot continue to hold on to all of these feelings, these thoughts. Whether you journal, you have to find a way to declutter all the clutter inside of your brain. So those are my 2 thoughts.
What about you, Ruth?
You have to plan it. For me, for it to happen, I have to plan it. And even when I do plan it, sometimes it gets pushed aside.
Mm-hmm.
Sean said, as moms, it's hard. But you know, one thing, I know a lot of people say that COVID was negative, but one thing I got out of it was, so as I said, I'm mom to 2 boys, both play sports, 2 different sports. So we're running from baseball to basketball, right? And sometimes we couldn't even do it together. So we would split up. One takes one person this way and one takes the other one that way. So one thing that COVID did for my husband and I, it cut down on gas, spending money on gas.
Yes.
It cut down on the wear and tear on the cars.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to rest because we weren't going. Literally, my husband and I were going 6 or 7 days a week from event to event to event. Because between the 2 days of practice and then the 1 day of game, and you know, my son was playing both travel ball and middle school ball. It's hard. So one thing COVID did for us, it allowed us to rest. And I'm not grateful for COVID, but I'm grateful that I learned a lesson that I was tired. So now when we go back to that new normal, we're making some changes. We've already talked about it. We're gonna make a concerted effort not to do what we were doing before because we didn't recognize what it was doing to us, but now we see it, right?
Yeah.
So once you know better, you do better.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
That's
So,
right.
like I said, you have to plan it. It's not just gonna happen. But then at the same time, it can't be that you neglect everything and decide you're going into this mode of 100% rest. And I'm telling you, though, like I keep saying, the only way to do that is to be Baker acted because they give you some nice drugs and you sleep for a couple days. But after you're done sleeping, you still got to come back to the real world, right? So you have to plan it. And if you can, plan it with someone else. Because then that person will push you. When you want to cry off, that person will say, no, man, we planned this. We got to do this. And I think that's where community comes in. We got to find that safe community that we know that they're going to push us to do it. Because I know that's what I need. And that's what my sister does for me. She pushes me to stop.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Well, for me, you guys kind of went through a lot of the self-care tips that I normally share. But when Ruth was saying that how important planning it is, but I always remind people that when you plan these things, it's important to treat them as you would treat like planning stuff for you, that you would plan your time for you the way you plan time with your boss. Let's say the director of your department wants to meet with you. You don't just decide, oh, you know what, my baby has a sore throat, so I can't go to this meeting. you find someone to watch your baby, and then you take care of that. When
No, I do.
so
Yeah.
a lot there.
I call my director and say my baby has a sore throat and I can't come.
Maybe in that situation, but there are little situations, there are a lot of things that happen, and especially when you have children, they always find a way to take priority over you. You've been planning to go to the movies with your husband for 3 months, and your children knew this, but somehow for 3 months they've been healthy, but that night one of them gets a stomach ache, or that night one of them needs something that only mom or only dad can do. So it's important that we're making sure that we're putting things in place that allow us to still take care of ourselves and prioritize the stuff that we need, because there will always be another crisis. There will always be something that needs your attention. And with self-care, the more consistent you do it, the less of a need it becomes. Because if we're constantly pouring into ourselves, if we're constantly filling our buckets, there's less of a chance that your bucket will be emptied to the point where you're burning out, that your bucket will be emptied to the point you're crashing. But if you keep waiting because something else came up, eventually you are going to crash. And then it's not so much self-care, it's not so much taking a breather. Now we're in recovery. When you're in recovery, it doesn't matter how many emergencies happen. When your body crashes, your body crashes. So in order to prevent that crash, it's important that we're consistently pouring into ourselves and consistently doing these things for ourselves and making sure that, that we're good. So I have enjoyed this conversation so much, and it looks like everyone else has too. So thank you so much, ladies. We have Kokisha Powell, who's here. I don't know if she's related to the Powells, but hi, friend. Thank you guys for coming. Clovens, Anik is here. Nancy's here. You're Nancy. Mac Nancy.
Oh, my Nancy. Hi,
yes.
Nancy.
Let's see. We said hi to Nancy, Anik. We said hi to Fran. So I'm trying to see if there's anyone that I missed. I know Rira, I didn't say hi to her, but hi. Sabine, I think I said hi to everyone that's here. Thank you guys for the great comment. Elise, thank you. Melinda, thank you. First name, last name. I love her name. First name, last name. Michelle, Fran, Regine is thank you guys for coming. Mac Kim, you want to say hi to Mac, Sean?
Hi,
They tell me I'm weird.
Hi,
They tell me I'm weird for doing that. Say hi to Mac. Ruth, I'm sure Quincy's here. I'm pretty sure he's here. But
Sure?
Huh?
You sure?
Because he said he was gonna be here because what is happening?
I don't know.
You can't hear us?
No, it sounds like there's a frog somewhere.
Somebody is talking over the feed.
I don't hear it.
I know, but I don't know what's happening. But so let me just call it a day then, because I don't know what is going on here.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Judy.
Sean, we have a date for Friday.
Yes, we do. And thank you, Judy, for the invitation. I now have two beautiful, intelligent, amazing women that I now feel like I know better and consider my sisters. So thank you guys. I'm honored to be on this panel with all of you guys. Thank you, Judy, for the invitation.
Right. So if you are still with us, please make sure that you subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you like and share the feed and share the video. And that is gonna be all we have for today. Hopefully this noise that I'm hearing is not showing on the video, but that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.
Bye-bye.